Greetings and welcome to PinballHelp. Mike here. Today work is continuing on this Bally Paragon machine. I've pretty much got the game fully working and restored. Almost every single light is working. There's one light I think that looks like it's loose I'm going to fix. But I want to talk about something else that I discovered. Let me just demo it, okay? I'll start a game, ball gets kicked out, and let's take a look at these flippers. So, see how the ball hits the flipper and bounces off? I've got the flipper held up. Pretty good amount of power coming off of that flipper. See that? Now let's look at the other flipper. Look at that. That's odd, huh? Why would it be doing that? Not a whole lot of power. Look at that. I do that. It's harder to do it with this one. So something's wrong with this flip. It does not have the same amount of power. So my thought is there's something wrong with the power going to it or the low power portion of this coil. Now the way these coils work is, aside from it being slightly a little bit out of adjustment. Oh, look at that. Yeah, there's something wrong there. Because see, this one doesn't do that. So we have a weak flipper. So what are we going to do about it? Well, we're going to discover what is the cause for that. But first you need to understand how flippers work. So flippers have a high power and a low power portion. So when you initially press the button and they fire, that's the high power coil because it needs a reasonable amount of energy to initially energize the electromagnet and create that action. But once the flipper is up, it doesn't need as much power to just keep it up. So the way these flippers work is there are two coils. There's a high power and a low power portion. Now the reason why you don't have the high power on all the time is if it was constantly energized, it would generate too much heat and melt and catch fire. So they're not really designed to be on all the time. They're designed to just fire. That's like these pop bumpers. Pop bumpers up there. These guys are not designed to stay on the whole time. And if they get stuck, they can heat up and melt. So the flippers have actually this two component to it. And there's three lugs on the coil instead of two. One of them is the common end, and the other two are the different windings, either the high power or the low power. So the idea is, once the flipper goes all the way up, it switches to the low power. So there's what's called an end of stroke switch, which is a little switch on the bottom of the flipper. So when it reaches the up position, it breaks the connection with the high power and makes the connection with the low power. So let's take a look and let's see what's causing this. What would be causing what's wrong with that? I have a couple of ideas, but I don't know for sure. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the game off, kick the lights up, and we're going to take a look and see what's inside, what's going on underneath this game. I've taken the ball out already, and we'll prop this playfield up and get a look at the underside here of this flipper. Okay, so there's our flipper. Let me get a little bit more light on this so it's a little bit easier to see. Where's the light? Where's the light? See if that one looks. There we go. Okay. Alright. So here's our flipper assembly. It looks like there's a brand new coil in here. New coils, so that's pretty good. I don't think the problem is with the coil. So when the flipper is energized, see this connection is made, and then this one is, well, this one's broken and this one's made. So when it goes up like that, it breaks one and it makes the other. So this is what's called, this end of stroke is a make switch right here. And when this thing energizes, it touches these two things together. I suspect the contacts on this are relatively corroded, and that could be causing it. It's just not a good enough connection, so there's not a lot of power flowing through it. One way to check this is to turn the game on and see if we see any sparks. So let's try this. So the game's booted up. Right? Let's start a game. Simulate the ball. Okay, so hit the flipper button. You see the sparks there? Let's compare it to the other one over here. 2 sparks. Sparks on that too. But I'm not seeing a spark on this other one. So I wonder if there's a loose connection somewhere in here. Also, we'll look down on the actual flipper button itself, and sometimes if there's a poor connection down here, if this is one of the types of games where the actual power is carried over. So I will also clean this contact as well as these other contacts. So that's going to be the first thing I'm going to do, is clean these contacts, take a look at them. So let's find a little piece of sandpaper. So I'm going to turn the game off. Always a good idea to turn the game off when you're fiddling around with it. So I've got my sandpaper here. This is a, I don't know what grit it is. It's probably about 600. So I'm going to fold it over so it's double-sided. And I'm going to put it in here between these two things, and I'm going to push the button and just make sure I got a good connection on both sides. And now when you got the game open, you could check, do all these things all at once, but I'm going to do them one at a time because I want to see if it's the flipper buttons. I'm going to do this one over here too, the other side, just even though we're not really working on that side. Okay. Let's turn the game back on, and let's take a look up here and start a game. Okay, so let me put my hand up here and see how. Yeah, it's still weak. Oh, you know what? Ah! I think the problem is this bat is loose. But I'm going to hold this in, and I'm going to see if I can move the bat. I can. So, okay, this is a mechanical problem. This is not an electrical problem. The problem is the bat is actually loose, but it only will go in one direction. It'll roll backwards, but it won't roll forwards. Now that's very, very odd. I can actually hold this and then grab the flipper, and I could flip it backwards, but I can't flip it forwards. I can actually move the flipper with my hand. So there's some play in there. So these two little nuts, bolts that go in through here are probably not tightened in properly. So the flipper is actually not connected to the plunger assembly properly. But I'm still going to clean this stuff. So let's while I got this open, let me hit this with a little bit of sandpaper. So quite oftentimes it can be an electrical problem with these switches usually. I'd say it's more often it's a problem with these switches. See, so I'm just gonna clean these just a little bit. This'll make it work a little bit better. While I'm at it, I might as well do the other side real quick. It looks like some of these were actually rebuilt. The one on the right looks new, the one on the left looks older. Alright, so our problem is not an electrical problem, our problem is a mechanical problem. So the flipper bat attaches to the plunger assembly here, and there's two little hex bolts. What's the name for those? It escapes me right now, and I know it. So I'm going to have to find a little hex wrench, and I'm going to tighten these down. And I think it might be stripped in one way, because it's weird that the flipper will go backwards, but when I move forward, there's a point where it stops. So what's happening is when I energize the flipper, it goes forward and it throws the flipper back to the front position where it won't go any further. So there's definitely something wrong with the index of this. So I will get a hex wrench, and I'm going to loosen and readjust these. And I guess it should have been a sign that this was the problem when I saw that the left flipper was a little bit out of alignment. So I'm going to go grab my Allen wrench, and I'm going to fix that. And then if I do another video, I'll show you the end result, and hopefully it'll be fixed. But this, in this case, this weak flipper was the result of the flipper bat not being properly tightened down to this. Now usually when that happens, the flipper just lays down flat, and when you flip it, it doesn't even move. This case, it was partially connected, so the flipper bat could just move a little bit of ways. So I'll get that fixed, and we'll take it from there. So I want to thank everybody for watching. If you like this, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, YouTube/PinballHelp, and click that notification bell and all that kind of stuff.